My name is Crystal Bridgeman. I am the Senior Director for Workforce Development Programs for the Siemens Foundation. We have recently started a new initiative focused specifically on STEM middle skill development for young adults, of which apprenticeships is really a key a model for us that we've been working with. It's my pleasure and honor to introduce our next panel discussion. First, let me introduce you to David ETZWILER. He is the CEO of the Siemens Foundation. David was named CEO in October of 2013, which was a new role for the foundation, and was charged with expanding the reach and impact of the organization. As some of you may know, the Siemens Foundation supports innovation, research, and education in STEM. Under his leadership, the foundation has increased its focus on STEM efforts in workforce development in the United States specifically. It's also my privilege to introduce you to Governor MALLOY. The governor is currently serving his second term as the governor of Connecticut. Since 2011, his administration's top agenda items have included creating jobs, improving public education, stabilizing the state's finances, making long overdue investments in the state's transportation infrastructure, and protecting the environment. Under Governor Malloy's leadership, the Connecticut Department of Labor was awarded $5 million to fund its Connecticut American Apprenticeship Initiative. A key component to this project is the introduction of competency, time-based hybrid models of apprenticeship. The project will enroll and serve 1,000 apprentices and pre-apprentices statewide in the high-demand industries of advanced manufacturing, healthcare, and business services.
I'm proud to be joined today by Governor Malloy, as Crystal noted, a champion for workforce development in his home state of Connecticut. He is particularly honed in on apprenticeships as one way to accomplish his goal of building a 21st century workforce in Connecticut.
The reality is that over the last 50 years, the states in the Northeast have lost a lot of low value added manufacturing. But where we are competitive in Connecticut and Western Massachusetts and other parts of New England and the Northeast is in high value added manufacturing. So most people here wouldn't understand or wouldn't know necessarily that Connecticut is one of the top 3 most concentrated states in aerospace. But we have a problem, and the problem is that a combination of factors in our society have led us to not value those jobs. The people who have filled those jobs for the last generation, and quite frankly, that term should be defined as generation and a half, they received their on-the-job training, and in many cases received training in apprenticeship or internship programs as they existed in the 60s and 70s before they were disassembled in the 80s and 90s. But they're all retiring. Yeah. And so we have this, I think, national problem. We certainly had it in Connecticut when I became governor 7 years ago, of people leaving work faster than their qualified replacements were becoming available. We have to go all the way through our adult educative processes, particularly at community colleges. I have a pet peeve about community colleges, and I'll share this with you. I personally don't think any program should be offered at community college that we don't give college credit for. If it is important enough to have a program on a community college campus, it is important enough to recognize that as we recognize all other academic and training achievement. And if we do nothing else than that, we will have moved the ball significantly forward. And when we do that, more opportunities for apprenticeships will in fact present themselves from the industry to the community colleges because they're saying there's value there. And until we get to that point in community colleges and all of our other private and public universities, we're not going to make the kind of mindset change, cultural change that I think we have to make.
States are really at the forefront of efforts to expand and diversify apprenticeship, where we see states taking a leadership role and putting in place the policy framework to create an environment where apprenticeship can flourish. Apprenticeship is expanding and diversifying.
Our goal is not just to fill the 44,000 open jobs that we currently have in Colorado, but it's actually to develop a statewide business-led system of high school apprenticeships in traditional and non-traditional industries, and to build a statewide culture of apprenticeships and a culture of lifelong learning, and to create meaningful choices for students and adults through exploration and experiences.
There's a high demand for high-tech and STEM-related people who are trained to be able to do the kind of jobs that they have. The other part of that is that Iowa's latest unemployment rate is 3.1%. So it really requires all hands on deck. Anybody who wants a job, we need to have them enter the workforce and get a job. The problem, of course, with that is that we aren't necessarily prepared with those number of people to take those jobs. And so apprenticeships have been a major part of the process. One of the focal points that we've had in the state of Iowa is addressing what we would call the underrepresented groups. And I heard earlier today the comments from the governor talking about women and young girls entering the workforce and having their interest and their confidence in entering STEM-related areas. We're also focusing our attention on minority populations, on immigrants and refugees, those with disabilities. Those are the kinds of efforts that we're working with sponsors in the state of Iowa to make sure that we're addressing not only the needs of the business, but the needs of the people.
The fastest growing segment of what we do is our South Carolina Youth Apprenticeship Programs, which actually came from business and industry wanting to start to build that workforce pipeline early. Our businesses in South Carolina are about to experience a silver tsunami, if you will, with retirees over the next few years. And our South Carolina companies have really caught on to the fact that it would behoove them to go into the high schools and career and technology centers to select students to potentially be that next generation of workforce.
One of the things that I think about is just collecting the data. I talked about that. It's very, very important, especially in a district that I represent. I represent a district that has communities where 50% levels of poverty, 50% levels of poverty being that a family is making less than $25,000. So we need to make sure that these apprenticeships, that they're inclusive, that they're diverse, that they're representative of all communities and not just some communities, is one of the things that we always typically push. And so a lot of the legislation, you'll see that I don't like to give away tax incentives, but when that does happen, that we have criteria where it has to be at least a 25% level with that zip code of poverty. The other thing is just educating my colleagues is one of the barriers. I serve in a body where it's 141, myself included, and 47 senators in the other chamber. One of the things that I think about is that these are bodies made up of lawyers, these are bodies made up of business owners, but they don't really understand the apprenticeship field. So a lot of times I'll try my best to get my colleagues in these schools, get them in there, understand that apprenticeships aren't just on-the-job training, there's an educational component to it, and I think that it's a lot more longevity with that.
For many folks who've been working in the apprenticeship field, Bob Lerman is no stranger. Folks probably know that Bob's a fellow at the Center of Labor, Human Services, and Population at the Urban Institute. He's also a professor of economics at the American University. Or, if you've been working in this field for a while, you probably know that Bob's just a guy that in every meeting got up and talked about apprenticeship. Long before anybody else was talking about apprenticeship, certainly in this town. In many ways, Bob is kind of the grandfather of the modern era of apprenticeship conversation in Washington, D.C. And we couldn't think of it now that the rest of us have caught up to Bob's vision of where he was decades ago. We couldn't think of a better person to kind of close out his reflections on where he sees this moving forward than Bob Lerman. So I want to bring Bob up for some closing remarks.
What does success really mean? It's not apprenticeship alone. Apprenticeship is a means to an end, which is good quality careers, a thriving economy, people that are proud of what they do, people who feel that they have a stake in the country. And I think that what it will mean, and I've studied income inequality, I think it will mean directly. A society with less income inequality, less need for government transfers. A society with more workers achieving occupational mastery, high productivity, and pride. I think it will improve the business climate, make America a lot more competitive, and it will greatly reduce the frustration a lot of our young people see as they transition from school to careers. So you're on the right road. Let's keep it moving, and thank you very much.